What is it that's holding you back, keeping you from becoming everything that God has created you to be, living your purpose and reaching your destiny? Is it self doubt, feeling that you don't measure up to others? Perhaps it's fear or lack of resources, offenses and challenges, maybe even past or current circumstances. Well, I want you to know that these are pathologies, diseases of the mind that negatively impact how you think and perceive things that invade your everyday life. You can overcome these peculiarities and become conquerors, living in the purpose that God has for your life. The Bible in Philippians 4:13 teaches us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hello, I'm your coach Dee Johnson, and I'm going to share with you on how you can overcome these pathologies and be all that God created you to be on today's Watering the Seed. Hey seeds, welcome back to another episode of Watering the Seed. You know, sometimes the Spirit hides revelation inside of a rhythm. And if you listen closely, I mean, really listen, you'll hear the divine writing you a love letter, through a melody. And so last week, a song came to mind that I hadn't heard in years, just came out of nowhere. It was one of those old classics, the kind of music I grew up hearing around the house as a kid. You see, I was the youngest of several siblings, okay? Some as much as 13 years older than me. So while other kids my age were watching cartoons or singing nursery rhymes, I was soaking in the soulful sounds of their teenage years. Real music. Their music wasn't wild or explicit like what you hear today. It was grown, it was poetic and full of heart. Those melodies told stories about love and heartbreak, hope and healing, long before I even knew what those words really truly meant. And though I didn't realize it then, that music was teaching me how to feel, how to listen beyond the sound and hear the spirit, the energy behind it. Those songs carried emotion, stories and lessons that I didn't fully understand back then. But they planted seeds early, seeds about love, about life and rhythm, of being human. So when this particular song resurfaced in my mind, I sang a few lines and hummed others because I didn't really know the words, and then brushed it off, you know. But when I tried to go on about my day, it kept coming back again and again. It wouldn't leave me alone. It just kept replaying in my head morning, noon, and night. I woke up the next day and it was still in my head. And honestly, it's been a full week since that happened. And while I'm working on this podcast right now, it's still running through my mind. But anyway, I finally thought to myself, why can't I get this song out of my head? What is going on? So then I just resolved, okay, God, what are you trying to say to me through this song? So I looked up the lyrics. I looked up the lyrics in suspense, to see if there was something deeper, a deeper meaning I needed to hear, I needed to know, some type of message. And oh boy, seeds, let me tell you, there was. So the song, and I don't know if many of you know it, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but the song was Strawberry Letter 23. So this episode is inspired by that song, originally written and performed by Shuggie Otis on his 1971 album Freedom Flight. And then a few years later, it was recorded and brought to new life by the brothers Johnson in 1977. And here's a fun fact. Fun fact, George Johnson, one half of the duo, was actually dating one of Shuggie Otis's cousins when he discovered the Freedom Flight album. He fell in love with this song, and I understand why. And they recorded it. They decided to record this song, their version of it. And that Seeds is the version I grew up with. The smooth, soulful rendition that most of us probably know and love today. Now, here's the funny part. I'd always thought it was called Strawberry Letter 22. And I know you guys are laughing because you probably thought the same thing. But anyway, because that's what the singer repeats in the chorus line, right? That's why. But when I searched for it, I discovered the truth. It was Strawberry Letter 23. That little mix up was its own revelation. That tiny discovery stopped me dead in my tracks because it felt symbolic, a reminder that what we think we know isn't always the full truth, even when the smallest misunderstanding can carry a message. It was it was it was as if it was divine. It was the divine, saying to me, you've been one number off, one vibration short, one understanding away from revelation. So I kept reading. I was humming along as I went through the lyrics, and the more I read, the clearer it became. You see, at first glance, it reads like a psychedelic love song, dreamy, colorful, almost otherworldly. But beneath all that melody, there's something spiritual waiting to be uncovered. You see, Strawberry Letter 23 isn't just a love song, it's a conversation. It's a conversation between soul and source. It's that quiet exchange between, you and the divine. That exchange that doesn't need words, only vibration. It's layered. This song is layered. It's layered with spiritual symbolism, freedom and higher vibration, really. There's a spiritual letter exchange here. There's an exchange happening here between soul and source, between human love and divine connection. And that's what I want to unpack in this episode of Watering the Seed. Now, before we go any deeper, I want to take a moment to welcome my first time visitors. Hey there, seeds. If this is your very first time tuning into Watering the Seed, I am so glad you're here, especially for this episode. This space is all about growth, about finding peace and purpose and spiritual clarity in the middle of life's noise. You see, we don't just talk about faith here, we feel it, we live it, and we apply it. Application is the most important part. You can listen to everything I say day in and day out, but when you're done listening, if you walk away and you don't apply it, it comes back void. So apply it. Whether you stumble across this episode scrolling through your feed or someone shared it with you because they thought it might speak to your heart, just know this. Just know this. You didn't land here by accident. This is not by happenstance. This is not by accident. You are seen, you are safe, and you are right on time. This is divine timing. That's why you're here. Divine timing. Now go ahead and get settled in because today we're going to unpack what it really means when heaven writes back. When heaven writes a letter back to you, we're going to unpack that and find out what that really means. So let's get started on the lyrics. The letter you didn't know you wrote. So the lyrics begin by saying, "Hello, my love. I heard a kiss from you." This line feels really romantic, right? It really does. But it's more than that. I think that line really draws people in. It really draws people in. But it's more than that. This line speaks to spiritual intimacy, that intimacy that transcends the physical. The kiss isn't just romantic. It's not. It's the exchange of energy, the moment when souls communicate beyond words. That's what that kiss is. It's your higher self remembering what love felt like, before it got all complicated. That kiss, it's not lips meeting lips. It's not lips meeting lips. It's spirit meeting spirit. It's that moment when energy says, I still remember the vibration of love, even if time tried to erase it. I still remember what that energy felt like. Hello, my love. I heard a kiss from you. It's not about a person, it's about a presence. Okay? That kiss, that's the moment your soul reconnects with something higher than flesh and deeper than memory. It's the whisper of God saying, I haven't forgotten you. Sometimes, sometimes heaven responds in melodies. I mean, this song going through my head, heaven responding in a melody. Heaven responding in a melody. Sometimes it responds in memories. And sometimes in a song that won't leave your mind until you finally listen to it. And that's what it made me do. I had to listen to it because it wouldn't go away. It still hasn't gone away. So that's what it does because love, divine love, always writes back. It always writes back. The next line, the next line in the song says, red magic satin playing near to. So, hello, my love, I heard a kiss from you. Red magic satin playing near to. And I'm not a I'm not a singer. So don't judge me. But anyway, that line, red magic satin playing near, that's the power of passion. Passion purified. It's divine warmth showing up as human emotion. It's our creator whispering. He's whispering, you were made to feel deeply and not fear deeply. Feel deeply, not fear deeply. You see, fear is considered to be a negative energy. It keeps us disconnected. That's number one. It keeps us disconnected and unaligned. And that keeps us from fulfilling our purpose. The deeper the fear, the deeper the disconnect. Understand that. When we align or when we realign with our purpose, we reignite the flame. We gain or regain our passion for it, for what we feel we're meant to do, what we're meant to be in this world. That's reignited. So that's what that means. And then the next line reads, all through the morning rain I gaze, the sun doesn't shine. Rainbows and waterfalls run through my mind. See, sometimes God hides his light behind the rain. He hides it, not to punish us, but to train us to see beauty even when the light isn't visible. Because when you can find rainbows in the rain, when you can find rainbows in the rain, you've tapped into spiritual maturity. This verse reminds us that, you don't wait for circumstances to look bright before you start believing again. You create your own brightness through vision, through imagination, and your faith, through your faith. That's what rainbows and waterfalls really are, emotional renewal and spiritual cleansing. When your mind is washed, your vision clears. You start to see things more clearly. You start to remember who you are. You start to remember who you are. All through the morning rain I gaze, the sun doesn't shine. Rainbows and waterfalls run through my mind. This paints a powerful image of hope through hardship. Sometimes the light doesn't come from the sky. It comes from within. It's in those quiet gray moments that the spirit invites you to create your color, your own color. To remember that, rainbows only appear after storms. You know, you see a rainbow, it's storming, I mean, things are just shaken up. The storms can be harsh. But then when the storms clear and the sun comes out, there's a rainbow in the sky. So, this is to remember that rainbows only appear after storms and that sometimes you are that rainbow. Someone else has been praying to see. Be that rainbow. Somebody's watching. Be that rainbow. They're praying to see that rainbow. You be that rainbow. That's what spiritual maturity looks like. Seeing beauty before it shows up and hearing joy before it becomes audible. Believing there's peace even when the world is still trembling. Believing there's peace. That's the rainbow. I pray that this is making sense. I really do. It became very clear to me, and maybe perhaps because I'm at this phase in my life where my eyes have really opened to that which is greater than me. I've always been in a close relationship with the divine, but now I see the divine differently than I ever have, ever before, ever in my life. And I thought that I was close, but you can always get closer. Believe me, there's something about it. There's something about it. So let's go to the next verse about the garden. The lyrics read, in the garden I see west purple shower bells and tea, orange birds and river cousins dressed in green. Now, I think I said earlier that this song sounds like a psychedelic trip, and these words, and maybe you can see that now as I read on. I'll read that again and then I'll explain. In the garden I see west purple shower bells and tea, orange birds and river cousins dressed in green. Now this part sounds like he's describing a fantasy garden, but spiritually that garden is you. Every color, every sound, every river cousin in green, that's the ecosystem of your soul. The garden is full of purple bells, orange birds, and rivers dressed in green. This isn't a fantasy, it's a mirror of the inner life. When your spirit is tended with gratitude, giving thanks and love and alignment, everything around you begins to bloom or bloom again. Your dreams take form. You see clearly, you make better choices that water and grow you, not drain you. You gain wisdom, you tap into your creativity, you experience joy. In this garden, joy in this garden. Purple represents wisdom, orange is creativity and joy. Green, that's growth and peace. When you start healing, you begin to tend to your inner garden again. You pull the weeds of self-doubt, you water the soil with affirmations, and you let the sun of awareness shine through. When you become the garden of your own wholeness, you become whole. You become whole. When you let divine love flow through you like sunlight through trees, your inner garden becomes the proof of your faith. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. The sound of freedom. The next verse says, pretty music I hear so happy and loud. Blue flower echo from a cherry cloud. This verse expresses the frequency of divine love. Sound and color merging into spiritual awareness. Sound and color merging into spiritual awareness. Pretty music I hear so happy and loud. That's what's happened. That's what happens when you start living from your healed place. When you're living from your healed place, you stop playing survival songs and start composing symphonies of gratitude, thanksgiving. You begin to move with rhythm again. Not because everything's perfect, but because you remember the harmony. It's like when a song you haven't heard in a while begins to play on the radio or in your mind. Like I heard this song, and your body just starts to move with the song. You find yourself bopping your head, tapping your feet, or snapping your fingers. And if it really gets good to you, like me, you'll break out with a full body motion dancing all across the floor because I love to do that. I love it. It's such a good feeling. I just love to just break out with a dance. And the music is totally in my head. Nobody hears it but me. God said he'll give us songs, and he does do that. So it's a good feeling. That blue flower echoing from a cherry cloud, that's your truth speaking love back to heaven. A blue flower, truth and higher communication. That's that throat chakra energy. You know, the ability to clearly and authentically express your thoughts, your feelings, and your needs. Cherry clouds, that's passion, elevated to purity. It's what divine connection sounds like when you've tuned your soul to gratitude. That's communication. That's communication between your healed heart and the divine creator. It's when you know what you know, and nobody can tell you differently. And when we are excited about what we know, you know how we get. The first thing we do is share it with those we love and trust, and some we don't love or trust, but we share that information. We share with our healed selves. We want to run out and share it with the world, but be careful and be warned, because this next verse tells us how some people show up in our healing. This next line is that curious line that raises an eyebrow and opens your eyes so that you can see people for who they are, or who they become when you become healed, when they see your healing. The lyrics read, feel sunshine sparkle pink and blue. Playgrounds will laugh if you try to ask, is it cool? These lines reflect childlike joy and freedom in divine surrender. You know, we feel like kids again. When the freedom of healing is flowing, it's a warm feeling of sunshine on our faces that gives us a glow. You know, I told you, when I'm in that feeling, I like to dance. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. It's a warm feeling, feeling of sunshine. Again, it's on our faces. It gives us that glow, and people see that glow. And you'll know they see it because they may say things like, you look different. There's something different about you, or you look relaxed. They may even actually say, you're glowing. And then others may ask, why are you so happy? Pink and blue. Mix love and truth, a balance of heart and spirit. Your heart and spirit are aligned. That's that pink and blue, when heart and spirit aligns. And you have this internal glow that radiates outward. When that happens, that glow, it radiates outward. People can see it. They see it before you do. Now, the second part of that verse, and I'll read it again. It says, playgrounds will laugh if you try to ask, is it cool? Again, when we're excited about what we know, the first thing we do is share it with those we love and trust, with our healed selves. We ask people because we need validation. That's why. We need to hear and know from them if what we're feeling is real. We need them to validate that. We want to know what they think. We want to know if they've had the experience. But seeds, listen, this is a hard no. No, no. Needing validation is being in bondage. You don't need anyone's approval when the divine has healed you. You don't need anyone to tell you that you're healed. You feel it, you see it, you're experiencing it. You're experiencing it. Why in the world would you need anyone's validation? News flash, you don't. You do not need anyone's validation. Playgrounds will laugh if you try to ask, is it cool? People will laugh in your face and lie to you to keep you grounded because they see your elevation. They see it before you do. They want to keep you at a level where they are comfortable with you so that you don't leave them where they are. You don't leave them where they are, so they don't have to hold themselves accountable for their own growth, their own elevation. their own purpose. If everyone in that environment is staying where they are, then nobody's elevating. This is the norm for that environment, that group, those individuals. The moment one begins to elevate, that one disrupts the perceived norm in that environment. And now everyone has to take a look at themselves. They're forced to look at themselves. And that, unfortunately, is something that many people don't want to do. Family, mother, father, brother, sister, even grandparents. Yes, grandparents. This can go back, way back for generations. That ripple effect. I talked about it in my podcast, episode 15, the three-part series titled How Did I Get Here? The impact on bloodlines. If you haven't listened, go back and have a listen. Water that seed. Water that seed. But anyway, yes, it can be anyone, anyone in your family, your friends, your closest friends, a colleague, a church member. If you're in school, it could be the instructor, a fellow student. Listen, when God does a thing in your life, you don't need anyone's validation. Just do you. Do you? Because spiritually, this is your moment of testing. The playground symbolizes those around you who can't comprehend your peace, your healing, your glow up. The non believers, the doubters, the insecure ones who mistake faith for foolishness, they can't comprehend it. They laugh because they can't see what you see. They mock because they've mistaken immaturity, their immaturity for intellect, believing their childlike behavior is clever, smart, strong mindset, when in fact it's weakness at its finest. They don't understand that real power is freedom, not groupthink, not moving with the crowd. That's not freedom. It's the need for validation. It's bondage. They're in bondage and they don't even know it. So they laugh and they mock you. Their laughter is just noise. It's not your truth, but it's theirs. Trust me, it's theirs because they're stuck. And that's what they understand, the bondage. And it's the same noise the enemy uses to make you question what God has already confirmed. When you ask the playground if it's cool to believe what God has already transformed in your life, you shrink your divine glow. You shrink it to fit into a sandbox built by fear. Don't play in the sandbox with those that refuse to grow or grow up. When you stop asking permission to be powerful, that's when you finally rise. Let's go to the next verse. So later in the song, the songwriter says, if you arrive and don't see me, I'm going to be with my baby. I am free, flying in her arms over the sea. This is when love becomes liberating. Seeds. This is when love becomes liberating. That's not escapism, that's ascension. It's the sound of a soul saying, I'm done explaining my joy to people who haven't healed enough to understand it. And spiritually, the baby he's referring to is newness, the rebirth of your purpose, your peace, your next level of being. You see, seeds, freedom isn't running away. No, freedom is not running away. Freedom is not running away. It's not running away from something. When you run from a thing, you're not freeing yourself. That's not freedom. Freedom is realizing that you were never trapped to begin with. You weren't trapped in the first place. It's a mindset. If you arrive and don't see me, I'm going to be with my baby. I am free. This is where the song exceeds romance. It goes beyond that. The songster is saying, if you come looking for me in old places, you won't find me there because I've ascended. I've stopped waiting for closure from people who were never meant to hold my freedom. The baby, the baby here represents the new you, one born after the confusion, the heartbreak, the plucking and the pruning. This is rebirth, your rebirth. This is a divine flight. It's when you finally stop clinging and start gliding in God's timing. That's what it is. You're no longer trying to prove you're lovable. You know you are. You're no longer begging for understanding. You've become understanding itself, purified understanding. That's when the soul says, I am free. If you arrive and don't see me, I'm going to be with my baby. I am free, flying in her arms over the sea. Now we move into ascension and spiritual union. The sea represents the subconscious or divine flow. Flying, transcendence, wholeness, release from earthly limitations. That's what the transcendence is. It's the release from the earthly limitations, those things that keep you bound. It could be people, it could be places. It could be things, it could be habits. But you're releasing yourself from these earthly limitations. You're no longer bound to or bound by how others see you, how they think, or how they feel about you. This is spiritual freedom. Love is liberation, not possession. Not possession. Then comes the line, a present from you. Strawberry letter 22. The music plays, I sit in for a few. Now, just a side note here. All these years, and believe me, it's been well over 30 years plus, that this song was made. But anyway, this verse right here, I always said, the music plays my second point of view. So that just goes to say, what we think we know and we really don't know, it really puts a different spin on the understanding. It puts a spin on the understanding because a present from you, Strawberry Letter 22, the music plays, I sit in for a few, is very different from the music plays, my second point of view. What is that second point of view? Scary. Anywho, let's just move on. So this is the mystical heart of the song, right? This is the guts, because this is what the song is about, the Strawberry Letter 22. So this is the heart of the song, and it's spiritual. It's spiritual. When he sings a present from you, Strawberry Letter 22, he's describing reciprocity, the divine loop of love and light. That's what it is. It's reciprocity. It's the return. This is where reciprocity lives. It's the cycle of love's energy returning back home. This is what it is. He received love in a message, a memory, a vibration. And now the divine is writing back in Strawberry Letter 23. That's the reciprocity. This is how divine energy works. When you send out love, it returns multiplied. Whatever you send out in love, you'll eventually receive back. And when you receive it, it's refined, it's multiplied, it's transformed even. When you speak faith, it echoes back as evidence. When you pray, you forgive. When you pray, forgive, or bless somebody, that energy does not vanish. It circles back with interest. It comes back to you. When you pray with purity, heaven responds in synchronicity. That's what the Bible means when it says, cast your bread upon the waters, and after many days it shall return to you. It also says, as a man soweth, that shall he also reap. This is reciprocity. If you sow bad things come back. If you sow love, love comes back. It's return. It's reciprocity. You write God with faith. God writes back in alignment. That's what this letter is about. Strawberry letter, it symbolizes divine messages of love and remembrance. That's strawberry letter 23. The moment when the universe replies. Letter received. Letter received. So let's bring this thing home, Seeds, because I think we're like 35 minutes in. Strawberry letter 23. That's what it's really about. It's about transcendence, seeing beauty beyond the circumstances, elevating and hearing above the noise. It's about reciprocity. Love sent out becomes love returned. God's words, his voice, his voice is filled with love and will not return to you void. God's word brings forth life. His words, they are filled with promise and purpose. So when you send God your love, it does not return void. And then lastly, this letter is about freedom, not from people, but from needing validation. Okay? This letter is about freedom, not freedom from people, but from needing validation. You don't need it. It's not just a song, it's a vibration of divine love. It's heaven writing a reminder you are already seen, already loved, already free. So, seeds, don't. I repeat, do not. Let playground laughter make you question divine letters. Faith doesn't need approval, it needs alignment. So, here's your reflection for the week. Every prayer, every affirmation, every loving word you've ever released, it's still in motion. Trust that. The universe heard you. Trust that. The universe heard you. Trust that. It heard you. And heaven is writing back. And the reply, the reply will always arrive in perfect timing. Perfect timing. It may seem like it's taken forever, but it's not about our timing. It's about God's divine order. And his timing is perfect. The reply will always arrive in perfect timing. Take a moment today to imagine your own strawberry letter. Just think about it. What would that letter say? The message from heaven would send to what is the message that heaven would send to you right now? Right now. Right now. What would it say? What if it's already being written in the quiet ways life is loving you back? What if it's written in the quiet ways life is loving you back? I know, I know, I know there are some of you out there who don't feel like life is loving you back right now. But let me tell you, that's a trick of the enemy, okay? It's a trick of the enemy. Whatever you're facing, the loss of a loved one, a job, a friend, or a loved one's betrayal, the weight of feeling unseen or unloved, those emotions are real. I know. I felt them too. I felt them too. But here's what I've learned. Knowing that the divine has a plan is what carried me through every single one of those seasons in my life. Every one of them. When I couldn't change my situation, I changed my focus. I changed my focus, how I viewed each situation and circumstance that I was in at that time. I started showing gratitude even for the smallest things. It wasn't easy. It was not easy. Gratitude rarely is, especially when your heart is breaking or is broken. Gratitude is not easy. But I found strength there. I found strength in gratitude. I learned to thank God for what I still had instead of grieving over what I'd lost. For those who passed on, transitioned from this life, I found peace in knowing that the divine simply called them home. And I thank them for being a part of my life. I released them. And I thank them for being a part of my life. I thank the divine for allowing us to share the same air, know each other, and love each other. I thank the divine for that. And for those who walked away or the divine removed, from my life, I realized their exit was my protection, not my punishment. Gratitude, being thankful, changing the focus, changing the way you see the situations and the circumstances. It helps. It helps. When the people were in my life that were unhealthy for me or toxic, for a while I lived in survival mode, thinking God wanted me to stay safe and hidden there. But that was just temporary. Survival was never meant to be the destination, it was the shelter. God sheltering me from the storms that were raging in my life. Survival mode. It was the shelter. You see, when you start trusting the prayers you pray, you know the strawberry letter, that's your prayers. When you start trusting that, when you believe that God does right back, because he does, he won't answer you in survival mode. He'll answer in reciprocity. That's love returned. He answers you in by returning love, not survival. Survival mode is temporary. It's just a covering. But the love that's reciprocated from those letters, now, that's freedom. That kind of love doesn't confine you, it transcends you, elevating you beyond the circumstances and the noise. It frees you. That's alignment. That's purpose. That's freedom, seeds. That is freedom. Because the truth is, heaven is always writing. Heaven is always writing. And when your heart stays open, you'll always recognize the love that wrote back. So the next time you hear that smooth guitar, that. And those airy harmonies floating through your speakers, don't just hear a song, hear a reminder. It's less about romance and more about remembrance. Remembering, that the divine harmony that we come from. Yeah, remembering the divine harmony that we come from. That you are someone's letter. You are someone's letter. That you are the message heaven keeps sending to the world. You're it. Love still exists. Peace still heals. Joy it still returns. Keep tending your garden. Keep sending your strawberry letters of faith and hope and forgiveness into the atmosphere, into the universe, because one day soon you'll hear heaven whisper back, letter received. Yes. So until next time, seeds, keep watering your soul, keep living in color, and remember, love doesn't just leave, it writes back. Love, peace, and purpose, always. I'm Coach D. Jackson, and this has been a Watering the Seeds Strawberry Letter. I hope you received it with love.